Welcome students. Today in this video I am going to teach you history of class 8. The chapter 6, British economic policies and their impact. So I am going to start with the revision. So the first important thing that I want to introduce in the chapter is that how these British economic policies have a greater impact on our country. Right. So the first one is that let's talk about the policy of land revenue, where the English East India Company has arrived as a traders in India in the 17th century. So but what happens by the middle of the 19th century, it has used different methods to conquer and colonize large parts of India. So before the arrival of British, India was a producer of various goods such as textiles, iron and products, iron and steel industries, products and spices, which were in great demand in different other countries. So British land revenue policies had led to the deterioration of the Indian agriculture and resulted in the frequent famines. But what happens there, commercial policies have led to decentralization in India. That is how the India's handicraft industries withered away and the people became increasingly dependent on agriculture. So the British colonial government in India has drained India's raw material and wealth to boost British India's industrial development. So let's take a closer look on this. In 1765, the company they have become the Diwan, that is a revenue collector of certain areas in India. After this, the company's corrupt servants have extracted huge amounts of the land revenues from the peasants. They have pocketed most of the money and leaving a very little for the company. But their methods of collection has caused a widespread misery among the peasants, and that is how it has declined in the agricultural production. To ensure the regular flow of revenue, the company felt need to restore agriculture. So that is how it is also being decided to settle or to fix certain amount of the revenue which needs to be collected and which needs to be paid. The company tried out many experiments for this purpose. So the first experiment which they have conducted, that is a permanent settlement. What does a permanent settlement happen? Means in 1793 the Lord Cornwallis has introduced the permanent settlement, in which it has been extended and it has been started in Bengal, and then later on it has been extended towards Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, some parts of the Banaras, Madras, and then thereafter many other places. So land revenue was fixed permanently at the highest possible amount that the land could yield. It was to be collected by the traditional zamindars. Of the revenue collected, 89% would go to the state and the 11% will remain to the zamindar. As the state's share was fixed permanently, Lord Cornwallis expected the zamindar to improve the agricultural conditions to increase their own personal income. With that, the permanent settlement system has several far-reaching effects on the economy and its society. Next one is Ryotwari settlement. Here, the British officials Alexander Reed and Thomas has developed this system. With that, this system has includes the collection of revenue which comes directly from the cultivators. Right? So during the Anglo-Mysore wars, this settlement has introduced towards the southern part in the Mysore and the Carnatic, and later on it extended towards the Bombay and some parts of the Madras as well. Now the third one is the experiment which was Mahalwari settlement. In the 1820s, the British official named Holt, which conducted the detailed land survey, which is in the part of the British, in the part of the Bengal Presidency, which is called the Northwestern Provinces. The area included the western Uttar Pradesh, parts of the Madhya Pradesh and the Ganga Yamuna Dyog. The effects of Rayatwari and Mahalwari has had greater extent and the long-term effects as the permanent settlement, as revenue rates were very high and the collection was very rigid. And with that, there was no remission which has been taken care of, while the indebtedness and the landlessness of peasants has increased, and that is how the land has become concentrated in the hands of the moneyed class people. Cultivation of the commercial crops. Under the British rule, commercial crops were grown in India to serve as a raw materials for the European industries. Among such crops were indigo, cinchona, poppy, tea, coffee, sugarcane, oilseeds, jute and rubber. These crops were grown on a large estates which are called as plantations, whose owners were known as planters. Most planters in India were of British or European origin. British trade in Indian textile, this is the point that I am going to discuss. The textiles were the chief item of the English East India Company trade in India. So according to an estimate, by the end of the 17th century, Indian calico has been accounted for more than the 80% of the company's entire trade. For the purpose of trading, Indian textile were classified mainly as plain white cotton, plain dyed cotton, striped and checked cotton, which has the embroidered cloth and silk goods. These were pegged into each pieces, each consists of 20 yards long and 1 yard wide. Hence, they were called piece goods. So, the students, what happened in the 1770s? The British withdraw the Calico Act, and they have imposed heavy duties on Indian goods through which they have entered British. They also promoted the sale of cheap machine-made British textiles in India. The company's agent forced the Indian weavers and spinners to buy raw materials at very high prices and sell the finished products at very cheap prices. This has been greatly reduced the income of the spinners and the weavers. The iron and the steel industry. The iron smelting was widespread in India since ancient times. The South Indian smelters produced Wood's steel, which is a type of a high carbon steel which was strong and could be forged easily. Under the British rule, the iron smelting in India has declined mainly due to the lower demand for weapons in Indian kingdoms, restrictions on the use of the forest resources, high taxes on the use of the furnaces and the competition with cheap and imported steel from England. Drain of wealth. Foreign trade had expanded rapidly in the second half of the 19th century. Among the factors that has prompted this were the opening of the Suez Canal, introduction of railways and improvement of roads. Indian exports have consisted mainly of indigo, jute, cotton, wheat, rice, seeds and hides. The imports consisted of manufactured goods like textile, metal products and machineries. The trade was, however, not favorable for India as the exports and imports were not well balanced. Scholars such as Dadabhai Naoroji showed that there was an enormous drain of wealth from India without an equivalent return led to India's economic backwardness. So my dear students, I hope you must have revised the chapter thoroughly. Thank you so much for watching.